What's up and welcome back to Nowstalgia Pod, your weekly look what's going on in pop culture. My name is Pat Sheehan. I am here with my co-host Dave Martinson. Dave, you seen any ghosts lately?
Kids see him sometimes, dog.
Just occasionally, not all the time. We're gonna be talking Kanye and Kid Cudi's Turbo Graphics. Kids See Ghosts project they dropped this week. We also got Father John Misty, Wifisfuneral. Ethernet album, which just a very confusing name to me.
It's a good motif. I'm proud of that one.
It's definitely an interesting one, and we'll be talking Ocean's 8. But first, subscribe to the pod on iTunes, SoundCloud. Subscribe to the YouTube channel if you're watching us. Give us feedback, rating, and review on iTunes. All is appreciated. We love and appreciate you very much. Let's start though with something that decided to take a gap year: Game of Thrones. Doing a little traveling around the world, breathing a little bit, just finding itself really, and figuring out what's the next step.
Yeah,
for Game of Thrones here.
That's why it's not on this year, right?
Yeah. So Dave, it was announced, I think today actually, that Game of Thrones is going to do a prequel. Not today?
No, it was like last week.
Last week, okay.
Friday.
So I was just not paying attention last Friday. That Game of Thrones is doing a prequel pilot called Age of Heroes, where it's going to be looking at some of the folklore of the Game of Thrones universe, the stories about kings that reigned for 100 years and knights from 1,000 years ago, things like that. It's interesting. When we talked about spinoffs, I think we talked about wanting something from the past, but not really being super specific about what that looked like. What would you want to see from this?
Yeah, I mean, when we talked about the spin-offs, there was a lot of options and thoughts around that. Everyone had one. I mean, some people thought Robert's Rebellion was like a safe pick because it's kind of close to when the show starts and there's some familiar characters that you'd recognize. You could maybe keep the young Ned Stark actor from the Game of Thrones flashbacks and just have him be in it. But that would probably play more of like a limited series, right? Because you kind of know how it ends. But, there was a lot of, there's so many potential. It's such a rich, vast world, so much lore from George R. R. Martin that you really could have done anything. The Dance with Dragons, probably too expensive for TV, would be awesome. The Doom of Valyria, how Valyria fell. Like, there's so many cool ideas for Thrones, but Age of Heroes actually makes a ton of sense now that we hear about it, because this is like 10,000 years. This is like basically the, prehistoric times for Game of Thrones when the history starts. Right. So you'd get like Bran the Builder and Alon the Clever. So like, people think Bran the Builder, there's many famous Brans, right? And Lan the Clever is like the ancestor for the Lannisters. And we can see how the wall was built, and perhaps the last hero or Azor Ahai, any of those like messianic figures from different religions. We could see them manifest in this. The Night King, by most accounts, used to be a Lord Commander of the Night's Watch. We could see like that first Lord Commander, and Night King was originally around that time, so we think. And there's a lot of people we've heard about from this, and some of them are expounded upon in like that Westeros, the world, the Song of Ice and Fire world book. Some of them still more obscure, so there's a lot of potential. But I think this is really cool because this is a show that could go on as long as possible. I mean, they said that they were gonna commission a bunch, or at least see out to write a bunch of different spin-offs, but I don't think they're gonna have more than one going at a time, just because it's kind of an ambitious effort. So maybe they have the Age of Heroes, it starts off well, and then this is Thrones. This could go 4 or 5 seasons easy, because there's never ending time for the show to keep going. So I think it's a great idea.
Yeah, I agree. I like the idea a lot, especially because I don't know how they're planning to tell all these stories, but you could have an anthology series type thing. You could have like pick 2 stories per, or 2 people like per season that you're kind of following, and how those 2 stories intertwine. You can do a lot of things with this different lore and just the different time periods that these people or these characters are written in.
Jump ahead 100 years, check in on that house, that early manifestation of that house, and see a few generations later. Like, if they wanted to do it that way, they could. There's a lot of options.
Exactly. You could even do like a bottle episode, like where you just like you hear one little story, you check in, show what that was like for that one episode, and zoom back out. It gives them a lot of flexibility. In terms of the ones that you laid out there, Brand the Builder, I think, is an obvious one that people really want to see. Land the Clever and the Night King, I think, are the three that it would make the most sense for them to explore. But I could see them even starting somewhere with a character that not a lot of people know about, just to establish what this is going to look like and not put too much expectation on any of these early stories, and save those for a little bit later as they move through. It'll depend on how they conceptualize it. So exciting stuff, though.
I mean, there's like notable characters, people from that time, from houses that like died out. So they'd effectively be a new character, a new type of people, new families, quote unquote, for most of the audience, So again, a lot of potential for this. I'm really excited for it.
Absolutely. I also want to say, to your point about not having other spin-off shows concurrent, I think that makes total sense, because in a way, like, Game of Thrones is always going to steal the attention until it like Westworlds itself, to the point where either it becomes too confusing or people are just tired of it. Oversaturation is not something that they need to do. Like, they don't need to throw a lot of stuff out there, because people are always going to want more, and that's a good place to be.
Ask Lucasfilm what happens when you saturate a little bit.
Exactly. Let's jump to some music here. Talk to me about our guy Wifisfuneral. First of all, love the name of his album, Ethernet. Just not only does it sound badass, but just makes so much sense in terms of like his name, I guess, and what he's going for. Where did this guy come from? He has like one mixtape?
He has, I believe, 2 mixtapes. The Blackheart Revenge, which came out last summer. No, sorry, that's his first mixtape from fall 2016. So he's relatively new. SoundCloud Rise, like many of his contemporaries, also from Florida. Then had When Hell Falls, and then The Boy Who Cried Wolf, which came out last summer, got reviewed by Pitchfork, really got some critical buzz off that one. And then Ethernet just dropped, and I mentioned him as my 10th selection for XXL Freshman. Check out that video we have up on our YouTube channel. Hit the subscribe button and tap the bell for notifications so you don't miss those videos when they come out. But XXL still hasn't dropped yet, but I still think he's a very worthy pick. And the reason being is, once again, on Ethernet, his 4th official project, he demonstrates that he is a really skilled rapper with, I think, a very entertaining flow. And he can really rhyme them together. He's not a mumble rapper. I feel like most of the rappers we talk about are not mumble rappers. He's a very competent guy. And I think his songs are fucking bangers, a lot of them. I think my favorite song is probably the lead single, 25 Lighters.
It's pretty good.
I think that song bangs. And then the song was The Only Pill in the World, The Activist, I thought was pretty cool. He did a classic young rapper thing where he collabs with Little Skies, so he just calls the song Little Skies Funeral, because you just put the names together. It's a tried and true method. And Skies brings it on that. But overall, I think it's just another proof that Wi-Fi can spit, and he won't go away. I think he'll be around a long time, even if he gets snubbed by XXL.
Yeah, his flow was the thing that stood out to me most in this. And the way he kind of changed up from song to song, in a way, it kind of sounded like he was trying to figure out, like, what's my direction on this? And some of it sounded a little bit, I don't know, almost like he was trolling at times, like some of his lyrical content. But overall, I just thought, like, he really seems to have not only lyrical ability, but just a way to present it that's intriguing. And I don't know how old he is, but it seems like he's up beyond his.
He'll be 21. He's 21. He's young.
Okay, yeah. So I was impressed with how he spit it out there. Do you think I know you picked him as number 10. Do you think that he's going to be able to sustain this sort of success with, there's a lot of really up and coming rappers, and I don't know if there's enough lanes for everybody to get the attention. Like, right. I think he could be popular. Is he going to be like middle tier?
I think it'll be middle tier. Not everyone can become a star, even if they're capable. But what I think that'll mean is he can still command a lot of streams and tour successfully for a long time, And for a lot of people, that should be good enough, because it's very, very lucrative still, But yeah, do I expect him to be a star? Not necessarily. but it also wouldn't surprise me. A lot of guys have ascended really fast recently, and it'll happen again.
Travis Scott's a great example of that.
Yeah, sure, definitely a little pump, even faster. Not to Travis's level, of course, but it's huge. And Uzi, 21 Savage is just like in the game now. Like, he's just another Atlanta rapper. He's not even like a new kid anymore. So anything can happen, especially for these Florida kids that continue to just pop out of nowhere. So I think I would say middle tier, but it wouldn't surprise me.
Florida, the state that gets clowned the most, somehow producing these rappers who are just blowing up. It's amazing. So your guy, Father John Misty, last year he dropped this album, Pure Comedy. Shout out the needle drop, Melonhead. Made it his number one album of the year. We reviewed it and we said it's long, it's a slog,
70 minutes.
It's not really that interesting. And
I did not like it at all.
Yeah, a lot of it missed the mark. It was a tough listen. Some of the songs were okay. How'd you feel about this follow-up album 1 year later, God's Favorite Customer?
Yeah, I'm Pure Comedy, Father John Misty, like he has, some people say he's like self-important, but like, he does, have a message, but I just didn't feel like it was very compelling or interesting on Pure Comedy. And on what's this one called? God's Favorite Customer. Yep. His fourth solo record. I think it's, he's still a really egomaniac of sorts, but I think because the album is livelier and also lighter as a result, it's just much more compelling and fun to listen to.
Yeah,
so it's my first project of his I really liked. Like, there's a lot of songs that I just thought were really enjoyable on this.
Yeah, Pure Comedy was it was a huge swing. He was going for a big idea and a big social commentary that I think in a lot of senses, not only where the country and where I think a lot of people were at, but also just the way he talked about it wasn't anything that really caught people. This is a lot smaller. It kind of reminded me of I Love You, Honey Bear, which was his 2015 album, which really kind of, he was already on the map from Fear Fun, but that was his probably his best album to date. It's a lot more focused. It kind of goes back to his more folky indie roots than Pure Comedy, in my opinion, while also still taking chances. And it also lets him be funny, which I think on Pure Comedy, when he was funny, it was around these really heavy ideals that made it kind of uninteresting and not really hit so well. So I give him a lot of credit for being able to kind of back off from Pure Comedy and create a lane here. Yeah, the songs that stand out to me most are Date Night, I think is great. Also, I really thought that was going to go in a what's the name of the song? True Affection. It sounded like it was going to become True Affection from the beginning. That just goes right into the acoustic, and I was like, nice. Like, that was a great twist on it. Also, the first song, Hang Out at the Gallows, really stood out to me as a great track. What songs did you like?
I like those two as well. And then I also like Mr. Tillman.
Yep. The beginning of the album is very strong. Also, the last one, We're Only People, is I thought a really well-written song. And he gets to be funny on this too, which I like.
Yeah, I think on those three songs in particular, like you notice the keys, it's more upbeat drums.
Yep.
And the vocals are just more lively. Like, I cannot stand any like soft rock that's like fucking soft or really folky. It just bores me to death. I can't do it. But this, has a lot of components of that, but it's just more lively, more compelling to me. So I was a big fan.
Yeah, even a song like Please Don't Die, which it kind of heavier topic, but he presents it in a way that's funny, and you can just hear that he just seems to be more behind these songs. It seems like he really likes what he's talking about more. So definitely made the album more enjoyable. I just really love Father John Misty. Pure Comedy was a miss for me, but his other three albums are great. So I really highly recommend this one. We're going to be talking about some other indie and rock albums in the next couple of weeks that have really been great that we just haven't had a chance to get to with all the backlog we have. So stay tuned and subscribe to the channel to get all your great rock review content, and also go look at our discussion from a couple of years back about what happened to rock music and why it is where it is, because I think it's pertinent to these bands that are coming out now.
Year-old video, still incredibly relevant and more or less accurate.
Definitely. Let's talk about Kids See Ghosts. We obviously Kanye's in week 3, going on week 4 of his song music rollout of late May into late June, middle to late June, and this might be possibly the best project he's released yet. You know, he released Jay last week. He produced all of Daytona, Pusha T's latest album the week before. This is his collaboration with Kid Cudi, which he's been talking about doing for a couple of years. You know, I alluded to Turbo Graphics.
16.
Yeah, 16 before. And this is finally, you know, them coming together. They've obviously collabed on songs since, what, might be Full Dark Twisted Fantasy or even before?
No, Welcome to Heartbreak on 808.
Right, Welcome to, 808's great.
And then he got signed to Good Music after that, Cudi.
So they've been working together for a while, and they always, whenever Cudi shows up on a Kanye track, it's always great. I mean, you think, maybe not always, but you think about Gorgeous. Like, that's one of Kanye's best songs. Welcome to Heartbreak is wonderful. Father Stretched My Hands Part 1.
The Cruel Summer collabs. The only one that really is kind of forgettable to me is Guilt Trip on Yeezus.
Yeah. I when you mentioned that a couple weeks back, I totally had forgotten that they
I forgot about it too.
So, you know, this actually really blew me away. Because after Ye, I was a little bit concerned about this. You know, Ye had some really great moments, some not so great moments. And it felt a little rushed at points. While I really liked Ye, and I still have been listening to some of the songs off it, I was worried that he was going to rush this one and it was going to come out a bit of a mess. And I think it's actually the exact opposite. It feels like he was spending so much attention to detail on this and Daytona that Ye was kind of like the afterthought for him in a way.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, Ye feels very stream of conscious, the least cohesive song to song. Mm-hmm. And that's not to say that any of the beats are bad. They're not. But you could, he's talked about it. He re-recorded a lot of the vocals, you know, a lot of dated lyrics about Stormy Daniels and Tristan Thompson, for example. So it just, his headspace for Ye is different from these other ones. And that doesn't necessarily mean that Kid See Ghost was canned, you know, weeks ago. I'm sure they were working on this till the end, but I just think they captured the vibe they had a vibe they were going for. You know, I don't think Ye ever really had that.
I absolutely agree with you. Now, Kid See Ghosts, you know, Pusha tweeted a couple weeks before Daytona dropped, Kanye's been chopping. And this is kind of where I want to start talking about this, because some of the songs he pulls on this are from literally out of nowhere. On Fire, the What Will Santa Claus Do? I think it's like a Lou Primo song or something like that.
Incredible beat flip.
Unbelievable. Like, and also, I mean, he's sampling a Christmas song from like the 40s on this, like, and somehow it makes total sense into the song, like, unbelievable. And then he takes Burn the Rain, which is a Kurt Cobain song that was recorded just like for him personally, just his own recording, that was used in Montage of Heck, a documentary about Cobain from 3 years ago. And somehow this like makes this awesome last song on Cudi's Montage. You know, just unbelievable how he's able to think about these things and build them into the song so seamlessly. What else stood out to you about just the production element, I guess?
You know, how would you explain these beats in terms of, you know, other Kanye stuff, even Ye? Because I think it sounds kind of like Ye in a certain extent. Like Daytona obviously was very, you know, very, I don't want to say dated, but it had like an older vibe to it with that bigger, louder production that would fit Pusha's braggadocious raps. But Kid See Ghost, and again, more vibey, more atmospheric, but also still feels kind of contemporary, you know? I mean, what would you compare this to? Because I saw a lot of Yeezus talk going around, and obviously like the jarring Yeezus stuff doesn't apply here, but I don't know, it kind of makes sense.
Yeezus makes sense. You know, it has like a psychedelic sound to it in a way. It fuses a lot of rock, you know, especially a song like Free, Ghost Town Part 2. I mean, they basically took samples from this guy called Mr. Chopped and just put the guitar samples in there, and they fucking bang, dude. This song is so good. Yeah, it's very lived in, and I think actually a lot of it goes to the sense of like place. Like you really feel like you're like in their heads on this. Like you see Kanye where he's at, and you see Cudi where he's at, and both of them are at very different stages of their mental health journeys. I think that's a lot of what this record oversees, but Cudi provides this real sense of peace and calm throughout, and Kanye gives this very like chaotic feel whenever he jumps in. But the thing I gotta give Kanye credit for in this, his bars are actually really good in this.
Yeah, I think that comment makes a lot of sense. Like it's like chaotic good and chaotic evil, right? Like they complement each other so well because of that. And Cudi's been open about his mental health struggles for a number of years, and I wouldn't say Kanye is open about it. It's like it's not like he's really digging deep in that, just kind of bringing it up, or sometimes then I think you can kind of risk stigmatizing stuff where he's just kind of either using it as an excuse, he's on his whatever bullshit, or the all three perks, whatever, he's a lot of like references to it. But I think on this, he doesn't like use it as a crutch this time. And while I don't know if he'll ever really get into that, I think it's fine. But yeah, to your point about his lyrics, I thought Kanye's verse on Reborn, is probably a better verse than he has on damn near anything on Pablo.
I was gonna say maybe since My Beautiful Dark Twisted Fantasy.
And part of that is his his energy on the song. He doesn't feel as frenetic, doesn't feel as angry or reactionary the way a lot of his other stuff does. It just sounds very measured, and again, it feels out of place. Doesn't feel or sound like the Kanye we've come to expect the past few years. And God, is that refreshing? You know? And
it's actually, he sounds very like clear-headed, like almost as if like what he really has been like thinking about and has really been able to process in his mind comes out in this album. Whereas, like you said before, Ye is like stream of consciousness, just like whatever comes to his head is like what he's putting down on that. But this seems very thoughtful, like a song like Cudi Montage, where he I don't know if it made it into the beginning, but everybody wants world peace until your niece gets shot in the dome piece, like that's like the first time I can remember him really looking at like the perspective of someone else's plight in the world at this point in time, since I don't know, maybe on My Beautiful Dark Twisted Fantasy movie, when he was talking about all the lights, like public visitation, we met at Borders, he's talking about that sort of situation. It just is really refreshing to see Kanye not be caught up in the moment as much and looking a little bit more introspectively, and also a little bit more at what's going on in the world, and being able to talk about it in a way that makes sense is really like kind of miss old Kanye now. Yeah,
especially coming off of the lyrical content of Violent Crimes, where he's talking about the sexualization of his daughter that he can't even name. So 1 week later, you get this. Wow. So I don't want to give him like too much credit for acknowledging his mental health. I still don't think he's doing that well. But overall, this collaboration is such a success. And I mean, we think about recent collab tapes in the rap sphere. It's by far the best one. I mean, this is better than What Time to Be Alive from Drake and Future. This is better than Without Warning from Offset and 21. It's better than Huncho Jack from Quavo and Travis. It's better than Super Slimy from Future and Thug. And that's a lot. Those are a lot of heavy hitters. But this one actually really feels like the two need to be together. And again, we've had this, as you said before, we've had this for a number of years, from time to time. I mean, Cudi hasn't been on good music for a while now. And, I think my very first thought about this is, wow, Kanye really coaxed Cudi into his first good album in 7 years. It's been a long ass time.
Didn't you feel like Free was what Cudi really wanted Wizard to be? Like,
that's an interesting point. Yeah,
I really feel like he was looking for something to capture in Wizard that he really needed Kanye in a way to maybe pull out of him. And I think Cudi brings some sense of understanding and calm to Kanye that almost helps him access like lyrically what he struggles to when it's just him, without any kind of border or any kind of structure to him. It's also interesting because I feel like the features on this album were a lot better than Ye. I mean, I think the singing on Ye is just like Ty Dolla $ign and Charlie Wilson. Like,
yeah, exactly.
I want that played at my funeral. But like Rick Ross seemed a lot more lively, and when he showed up on Free in this, Mos Def at the end of Kids See Ghosts, I thought was also a really great feature feature verse. It's
Ty Dolla $ign again on this one.
Amazing. Like Ty Dolla $ign's having a moment here with these songs. So just overall, this project, I liked it a lot. Where does it rank between the three that have been dropped for you?
That's tough.
That's is
tough. See, the thing about all of these albums, 7-track albums, 20 to 25 minutes long, roughly, right? The highs stand out because there's, by design, less of them. And also the misses or the duds really stick out as well because there's less songs to cover them up. So I probably would defer to Daytona on this, just because I think Daytona is a little more is more focused, and there is no song on Daytona I wouldn't listen to, and not that Kid See Ghosts is far behind, and maybe I'll listen to a Kid See Ghosts song like Reborn more than anything on Daytona. We'll find out, over time. But I think Daytona as an album definitely feels like it was the one that was, it was in the oven the longest. And I think it'll age probably the best.
Yeah, I completely agree. Daytona is still my number one out of these ones. And it's probably top 5 for me for albums in the year. Dirty Computer, Golden Hour, it's up there. We're going to talk about Parquet Courts, but their album Wide Awake is up there for me. So Kids See Ghosts might be top 10. End of the year might just miss the top 10, but really just encouraging to hear these two artists that I loved back in college. Kanye I've continued to love. Cudi I've fallen off a bit. Just shine and put out a project that's this coherent and this excellent, really.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I agree.
Something that I'm interested to see if you felt it was as you liked as much as I did. Ocean's 8, Gary Ross's sequel, I guess. Well, I don't even know how to describe it. In the same universe as the Ocean's 11, 12, and 13, which I didn't realize that those were dropped around December, at least the first two, and then the 13 was dropped in June, and also had the lowest grossing box office, which I found very interesting. But yeah, Gary Ross, so he's the director of The Hunger Games, Seabiscuit. This was, I left the movie theater with probably the biggest smile I have all year. I found it very fun.
Exactly.
I don't think it was great, but it was fun, and that's really what I was looking for from this movie.
Yeah, I agree. I think it's very good. I think it's very fun. It probably inherently low stakes by design, but I think it's incredibly enjoyable. There's really nothing I disliked about it at all. But to your point about the original Ocean's trilogy, those came out in 01, 04, and 07, and they of course starred George Clooney, Brad Pitt, and Matt Damon,
and your guy Don Cheadle.
And yet, Ocean's 8 outgrossed all of their opening weekends. Ocean's 8 made 41.6 million this past weekend, and the highest earner for Ocean's 8 was for the original trilogy was Ocean's 12 and 04 with 39. And I find that very interesting because I thought early 2000s, Clooney, Pitt, and Damon, all really hot, big actors back in time when a lot of people still went to the movies a lot more than they do now. I just found that very surprising. Now, the original, the Ocean's 11 from 01 did make 450 million worldwide. I'm not sure if Ocean's 8 can do that because it didn't make a lot worldwide, internationally this past weekend. But either way, interesting to see. And before we get into the film, it's been frustrating watching these female-led casts. Every time they exist, they have to, prove the bankability and viability of their whole gender every single time. I'm just so tired of that. I mean, the Ghostbusters reboot in 2016 was plagued by this, and some people were like, oh, why are they rebooting this? They didn't have to do this. Bernie Mac's rolling in his grave. And I'm like, oh, you mean the Ocean's trilogy that remade the original Ocean's 11 with Frank Sinatra and Sammy Davis? Like, let's step back on that. But I think we're finally getting to a point where people are like, oh yeah, women can be the majority of the cast, and it's not a female movie, it's just a movie. Whenever there's a movie with all men and the only woman is a love interest, no one cares. It's just a movie to them, right? It's the same thing here. And it's funny because Richard Armitage, if he was a woman, he wouldn't pass the Bechdel test in this movie either, but nope. It doesn't matter. That's his role. But yeah, to the movie itself, I agree with you. I think it's a really fun heist movie. I think it kind of captures what made Ocean's 11 compelling, rewatchable, and fun. But it kind of twists a little bit on itself with, obviously a great cast of talented people. And I think it's a very successful movie and obviously set up for more sequels.
Yeah, to talk to your point about the female-led cast, they even nodded to it in a way. There was that part where they're trying to figure out who they get, and Debbie Ocean, played by Sandra Bullock, is like, no, I don't want him. And they're like, why? Because it's to him, no hymns. Yeah, I actually really appreciated that. The cast I thought was great. And my first thought really leaving the theater was, why don't they just do this every year? I wouldn't mind seeing it like an Oceans. I love heist movies. I love these sort of like, how are you going to get the team together? How are you going to figure it out? How are you going to what's the twist can be at the end? I always really enjoy those. But I think the difficulty is that these casts are just so stacked that to get all these people available at the same time to interact is just basically impossible. And also could grow a little stale, I think, if you do too much of it.
Right. And I mean, to that point, not every heist movie with good reviews does well. You don't have to look much farther than Logan Lucky last August, right?
True.
Also from Steven Soderbergh, the guy who directed the Ocean's trilogy. So, and I think this movie had to be attached to a sort of IP, Ocean's 8, to get all this big name talent to justify I think it's like a $70 million budget, which is not a ton, but it's still not a Blumhouse movie. It's still expensive.
Yeah. That was actually the thing I liked the least, though, was that it was tied directly, like the callbacks to Danny Ocean being dead, and that didn't really play well for me. I go ahead.
Right. And I was interesting because a lot of the press tour, they've been kind of pushing back on comparing it to the old trilogy and all those questions, but yet the movie can't quite get away from that. I mean, what's his name? The amazing Yen. He's in the movie, and Matt Damon's Linus also had a cameo that they later cut, I think, after his downsizing comments, right? But either way, like, it's still very much lived in it. Like, there's many callbacks to Danny, like you said, and Debbie's whole family. So again, I do agree that's a weak point. I think in Ocean's 9 they can probably get away from that. But I mean, let's go through the whole cast, all 8 of them. I mean, obviously a very talented group of actors, all with great success. So I mean, who really stood out to you? I thought they all were good, but who really stood out to you?
I had 3 people that really stood out to me. Number 1, Cate Blanchett. First of all, I don't remember ever seeing Cate Blanchett in a movie and not liking her. But I was also trying to think, how many movies have I seen her in? And the only one I can really think of is Thor Ragnarok.
Lord of the Rings.
Lord of the Rings as well, obviously. But I'm thinking recently, it's been a little bit.
She was in, was it Carol or Brooklyn? I forget, one of those.
Brooklyn is my most forgotten Oscars movie of the last 4 years, whenever it came out. But she was great. I mean, she played Lou, who was basically like Rusty for this movie.
Exactly.
And Brad Pitt. It's such an awesome role to play because you just get to be really cool and basically just be there and be the person who fix things. Honestly. Yeah, that was the thing, is with a movie like this, there's so many good people. You have to give them all moments. Someone that got a lot of screen time and had a pretty big role, Rihanna, I thought was excellent, and really did not expect her to be that awesome as an actor. I think she's only been in a couple of films, and every scene she was in, I thought she was really good. And Helena Bonham Carter, also for me, I was like, it's nice to not see you doing a Tim Burton movie and just getting to be you.
Exactly. That's my thought, because she's obviously a eccentric actress that she plays into that, but she's also really talented. Bellatrix Lestrange, look no further, right? She plays weird people. Yeah. And not that she's not doing that this time, but I think it's a not an unhinged performance this time. I think it goes over very well. I agree.
Yeah, instead of being, the queen in Alice in Wonderland, where you're playing like this very specific character, she got to kind of just be a human being who is a little quirky, but still like, very human, which I really appreciated. Also someone that I really liked, Sarah Paulson, which I also was like, this is the first time I can remember seeing you and being like, oh, this is like Sarah Paulson getting to like be a person as well, even though she obviously is like this criminal and like all these people are criminals, which is also like the weird part of this. But like I think about her and I think about her on like The People versus OJ,
American Horror Story.
Yeah, and she's always playing these like weird roles. Like to get to see her just kind of be a person, I was like, this is really refreshing. I really enjoyed that. What about you?
I agree with all those. I thought Anne Hathaway probably stole every scene she was in, especially as the movie progressed.
Magnetic.
Yeah, she's electric in this. I mean, she's kind of been away from acting a little bit, with a pregnancy and whatnot. But and she also got like, I thought like way too much shit for some of like her award show behavior, like the past 5 years.
Oh yeah.
And it's like Anne Hathaway's been great for a long time. I mean, she won the Oscar in Les Mis, and that's kind of where the controversy started. But it's like, I've always liked Anne Hathaway, and I never understood like the turn on her. But she plays a compelling like foil to Debbie, and like, once they flip it and she becomes the 8th member, as everyone probably saw coming. I think it works well, and her character only grows and commands more of the scenes as the movie goes on.
Yeah. And thinking about Anne Hathaway, I feel like she's almost been typecast at this point. Before she was like when she first started, was it Princess Diaries?
Yep.
She was like the sweet kind of nerdy girl who, becomes a princess. But now she's become almost like the successful young person who is like jaded and kind of has like, it's like, just let Anne Hathaway be like the sweet like person she seems to be, but maybe that actually fits her personality better behind the scenes. Who knows? Sure. I don't know. But yeah, I thought she was great as well. Who else stood out to you?
I liked Awkwafina a lot. Yeah. She's kind of been, it's funny. She's like an underground, like New York rapper, but she's also been picking up more and more film roles. Recently, she'll be in a Crazy Rich Asians later this year. And I thought she was good. I mean, actually, the character I thought was probably the least served was Mindy Kaling's character.
Interesting.
Just because I didn't think she had enough to do. I don't know. Like, in fact, her contributions to the heist is probably one of the most important. Yet, I don't know. Maybe did she not have enough speaking roles? Perhaps, I don't know. I just thought she was the most underserved.
Yeah, she was underserved, but the one I liked the least was actually Sandra Bullock as Debbie Ocean.
Interesting.
I mean, I know that she's basically trying to fill George Clooney's shoes, and trying to play Clooney is a near impossible role. And I don't know if she was trying to like impersonate him per se, but just kind of give that like cool, calm, collected vibe. Obviously, it's Danny's sister. I felt like for someone like Sandra Bullock, who is able to do so many things, check so many boxes, to kind of almost like limit her in this. I thought the scenes I liked her most in was when she was actually inside the Met Gala, because she got to kind of walk around, she got to like do stuff instead of just like trying to deliver some one-liners and kind of funny things. But yeah, overall, I don't really have a lot of parts I didn't like. Did you think that this was a good script?
Yeah, I mean, it's funny. I saw some comments about how like the heist not working for some people. I actually really like the heist. It's not as like zany and out there as the Ocean's 11 heist, the one everyone remembers. So it's tough to compare it to that. But if anything, I thought was weak about the script. I thought the getting the gang together bit in the beginning where they recruit everyone. Maybe I was comparing to Ocean's 11. I'm not sure, but I actually like that less than the heist. And obviously, getting the gang together bits are always awesome. So yeah.
I thought the script was okay. I think it could have been improved. Some of the parts I would have improved would have been kind of her backstory with Claude was the painter, Richard Armitage.
Yeah, Thorin Oakenshield from The Hobbit.
Yeah. Okay. I thought that was a little weak. I also thought that like the getting the gang together scene was weak. Also the end when they all get their money, like the end of Ocean's 11, one of the most memorable scenes of them standing in front of that fountain,
Mm-hmm.
and they didn't really have that. You know, they're all hanging out. Then
a little rushed.
Yeah, and it just felt like it was relying too heavily on twist after twist. Like, oh, so Anne Hathaway was part of this. Oh, so there was actually 2 heists. Oh, so there's Yen. Like, it was almost like they didn't really get a chance to like see the emotional weight of this group coming together, which is kind of what they alluded to was like the important part of this is their relationship within it.
Right.
But yeah, I mean, these are just little things. It was fun. Like and the music was great.
James Corden was good.
Yeah. I liked the conversation between James Corden and Anne Hathaway, and he's like, "Some days I just love my job." Like, it really made me laugh when he said that. What did you think about this not really having a villain?
Yeah, that's the thing. Like, just when you think Anne Hathaway is gonna like play into that, it totally flips. And Richard Armitage he's framed. He wasn't really a bad guy. If anything, he was just, a
weasel,
the piece of Sandra Bullock's ire, I guess. I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
What I did like though was that in Ocean's 11, the heist is all about Danny getting Julia Roberts getting Tess back, right? But in this one, they flip it and it's all about Debbie screwing over her ex, not getting him back. So I thought that was a nice flip.
It's a good juxtaposition, I suppose. That's a good point. I didn't think about that. Any last thoughts? Ocean's 9?
Oh, definitely. Come on.
Yeah. And I'm excited for it too.
So who would you cast in it? Obviously a woman.
Tessa Thompson, Carrie Coon, one of those 2.
Alicia Vikander, any of them.
If they put it, so supposedly
play European,
right? Well, apparently Elizabeth Banks was supposed to be attached to this, so
she would have fit.
Yeah, I feel like she could be a good addition. Maybe I don't really know. Was anyone in the Linus role in this movie? Maybe they need a Linus.
That's true. They don't really have a Linus. Maybe Anne Hathaway could do that.
Yeah, that's a good point. Anne Hathaway might be perfect for that. So we'll see. It'll be really interesting. And there's probably going to be a true villain for the next one, I'd imagine. So
sure. It'll probably get a little more money to work with too.
Definitely. So looking forward to that. We have Incredibles next week. We have Jurassic World the week after. So a lot of big movies coming out. And we didn't even get a chance to talk about First Reformed yet or any of those little ones. So
great film.
I'm looking forward to it. The trailer didn't entice me, but everything I've heard of it since has been great. So I'm looking forward to it. Any last thoughts for the people, Dave?
Legion season 2 wraps up for us tomorrow. By the time most of you are listening to it today.
Yep. So
we haven't checked in on Legion in several weeks, but we'll get to that. Obviously, we're big fans of that show.
Yep.
And then this week on the album front, the 4th Good Friday release, quote unquote, is going to be this Nas album. Nas isn't a good music artist, but apparently Kanye did all the beats for him. So we're told. We'll see. No title for that or no singles. So
he tweeted that he's waking up early and working on it. So good for him.
And then J-Rock's 3rd album, Redemption, drops. Obviously, the TDE rapper. At the concert I went to for Kendrick this week, Schoolboy Q told me that his album is done. He told the crowd, sorry, that his album is coming after.
Nowstalgia exclusive.
That's cool. And then also Chromeo, back again with some zany tunes. And Christina Aguilera, whose singles have not been good, but just letting you know if you're interested.
I checked out those singles and I was like, I'll pass on this one.
The Gold Link, got that check, nice dog, but and Naga song.
So a lot of stuff to look forward to. As always, we stay plugged in. We'll keep you plugged in. So subscribe to the channel, our iTunes, and our SoundCloud. We appreciate all your interactions with us at NowstalgiaPod on Twitter, at Martin Swagger, and at Sheeting World Peace. Hit us up with what you want to hear us talk about and jump in the conversation. We want to hear from you what you think about Ocean's 8 or any of the music we talked about today. Peace out.